All right, guys, your essential question for today's lesson is how do we use the unit circle and unit triangles to calculate trig ratios? So we're basically doing the exact same thing, just doing a more different, similar type of problem. All right, remember you will have a test over this material coming up soon. All right, before we get started, let's do a little bit of review. Let's say that I were to throw questions at you and ask you, can you tell me what quadrant, sine, cosine, and tangent are positive? Well, anytime it asks you for when a trig ratio is either positive or negative, I hope that you immediately think about the mnemonic strategy that I taught you, A SMART trig class. And remember, what that stands for is that in quadrant 1, all trig ratios are positive. In quadrant 2, only sine and cosecant. In quadrant 3, only tangent and cotangent. And in 4, only cosine and secant. So if I were to ask you in which quadrants is sine positive, that would be in 1 and 2 only. If I were to ask you where is cosine positive, that would be in 1 and 4 only. And then if I were to ask you where tangent is positive, that would be in 1 and 3 only. Okay? All right, so remember, whenever you're looking for where it's positive and negative, remember, A SMART trig class. Okay, let's get on with today's lesson. What if I wanted you to tell me what the exact value of cosine of negative 5 pi over 3 is? If you notice, this value is written in radians. Now, I know that we could probably map this out on a unit circle, but for most of the problems we've been done so far is we've been working with degrees. So it might be helpful, since we don't, if you don't feel comfortable working with radians, to convert this measure into degrees first. So how do we convert negative 5 pi over 3 into degrees? We're going to multiply that by 180 over pi. And so let's see, what would that give us? The pi's would cancel out. 3 would go into 180 60 times, and 60 times negative 5 would be negative 300 degrees. Okay? All right. Well, negative 300 is good, but let's try and find a coterminal angle that's between 0 and 360. So I'm just going to add 360 to that, and that would give me a coterminal angle of 60 degrees. 60 degrees is in quadrant 1, so I'm going to draw this situation, 60 degrees, and since we're in quadrant 1, I don't have to worry about finding the reference angle. The reason why I don't have to worry about finding the reference angle is because in quadrant 1, the reference angle is the angle. All right, so across from 60 would be the square root of 3 over 2. This is understood to be 30, so this will be 1/2, and the hypotenuse is always 1. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so adjacent would be 1/2 over 1, which is the same thing as 1/2. Notice that we're in quadrant 1, so all of your trig ratios should be positive, and our answer is positive. If you want to use the xy definition, remember cosine is x. So if you notice, this is the x value, so 1/2 over 1. You still get the same answer either way you look at it. So just to recap, remember, if you're working in radians, convert it to degrees first. Then if you have to, find a coterminal angle. Once you found that, find the reference angle, draw the unit triangle, find out what the relationship is. All right, let's look at another one. What about secant of 15 pi over 4? Again, that's in radians, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to convert 15 pi over 4 into degrees, so I'm going to multiply by 180 over pi. The pi's are going to cross out, and then 4 will go into 180. I'm not even going to try and do this in my head right quick. I'm just going to go ahead and reduce this. So this is going to be 15 times, reduce that by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 180 divided by 2 is 90. And so then 2 goes into 90 45 times. So that's going to be 15 times 45. And then I'm going to use my calculator right quick. And that would be 675 degrees. Perfect. All right. Well, now that I've got my measure in degrees, I want to get a coterminal angle. So I'm going to subtract 360, and that's going to leave me with 315 degrees. Perfect. Let's figure out what quadrant that is in. 315 degrees would be in quadrant 4. So that would be 315 degrees. I need to find my reference angle. To find my reference angle in quadrant 4, I'm going to do 360 minus 315, so that would leave me 45 degrees. Drop my perpendicular, so I know this is a 45 degree triangle. I know that in a 45 45 on the unit circle, my hypotenuse is 1, and my two legs would be square root of 2 over 2. However, I need to check my signs. This x value would be positive, but since this is going down, the y value is going to be negative. All right, now you can use whichever definition, x, y, r, or the opposite and adjacent definition. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So since cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, secant is going to be hypotenuse over adjacent. So my hypotenuse is 1. My adjacent would be square root of 2 over 2. All right, so I'm just going to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to have 1 divided by the square root of 2 over 2. I'm going to stay, change, flip. So that's going to be 2 over root 2. So that's going to give me 2 over root 2. I'm going to simplify this, and that'll give me 2 root 2 over 2. And the 2's will cancel out, so that'll just leave me the square root of 2 as my final answer. All right, that's it for today's lesson, but just in case you missed it, if you're not good with fractions and radians, just remember, convert to degrees and go from there.